Hi, and welcome to the Holistic Hub with Marie and Martine, a welcoming, nurturing, and soul supporting environment of all things spiritual, energy, and alternative. Our intention is to freely and lovingly share the personal truths, stories, or wisdoms we've gained, hopefully offering any guidance, new perspective, or light bulb moment that you may wish to take away to assist you through your navigation of the journey out of 3D, through 4D, and toward 5D and beyond. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 13? 12. I've lost track. Sorry, I'm ahead of myself. I forgot to actually ask. But welcome again, Martine and myself, Marie. And today we have just had a quick chat because this morning I got a message, a feeling of what to sort of discuss today. So there must be people out there wanting to hear it. And that's basically about why are we not manifesting, or why you're not manifesting what you want. So we're going to touch on that. Obviously, it's another big subject. There's a lot of ego aspects that we need to bring in and incorporate this. So we're just going to gently bring in to give you a bit of guidance, hopefully, about how you can start self-review and see where our thoughts are sitting with you, where you may or may not be doing that or not checking, reviewing. And yeah, we'll just go with the flow, huh? Happy for that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so where I feel we need to kind of start with this is, we're all wanting to manifest. We're being told now, and it's truth, that we're in incredibly creative times, and we're in incredibly creative energies, which we are now building and moving towards and creating great new dreams and futures and fifth dimensional energy structures. But just our simple stuff, because many people at this time of year too, and what's coming with Christmas, it brings up all the old baggage. We've been through the eclipse window we've spoken about, bringing up all the old baggage. We're going through the process of our shadow work and releases. So a lot of part of that moment in time of manifesting is always tricky if you're in a release period to start with. So if you're trying to bring in something new, but you're still holding on or working through the old, you're in a bit of a confliction of energies at the same time. So it's kind of nice just to leave that to the background for the minute and work on the self, which is where I and my team would like to take you today about what might be preventing from the level of the ego that which you're coming into or you are wanting to create for yourself very shortly. So again, my message is spirit is simple. This game is simple. What convolutes it and tricks us up is our lower ego shadow self. Okay. So I've always taught it that in consciousness, we all have two voices. Once ego consciousness is established from an early age of 7 on, maybe 5 on, pending, we have two voices that are operating in our system that we are not always conscious to. And I've often referred to it, you may or may not know of the movie Sybil. Sybil had multiple personalities. And I call it always, when I started my work on my shadow voice, my lower ego voice, I called her Sybil, because she would be in the background unbeknownst to me, but with such an incredible, powerful energy of sabotage, of doubt, of confusion, of mistrust, of unbelief, of all these less than aspects to my creation. She was the consciousness that was interfering with my manifestation process. And to discover this, that's the process in itself. So simplistically, again, where I would like to start is an example, say, of what we are creating with. So say you have an idea, and let's start small, okay? We've got an idea of what we want to do and where we want to put that, and we want to throw it out to the universe. Now, let's clarify again. The universe is not emotional. The universe doesn't judge you. The universe doesn't have any emotional qualities to it about what you deserve, what you can have, what you should have, what's good, what's not good, what's divine now, what's not divine. It doesn't do that. It's all about frequency. So it's the energy that you're putting out, your intention of what you are saying, what you are wanting is going out to the universe. The universe simply matches the vibration. That's it. So if you are putting out something that you think you want, but it's not coming back, it's just simply not coming back, there's a few reasons why. Okay. Firstly, the intention was clouded. And I'm going to throw to Martine soon, but I know you'll have a big spiel on this too. Your intention was clouded. So, A, was there any doubt? Did you fully believe in what you were putting out to the universe? Was it a clear instruction to the universe? Did you throw it out with good intention, but then you had Sybil come in that was like, oh, did I do that right? Or did I put that out okay? Was there any doubt, confusion, unsurety? Because the minute that enters through, you've just demoted your intention and the vibration has dropped from the original aim that you put out, the original intention. So even if you then say, no, I've checked myself, and this is what I always do, I've put something out, and the minute I go out, for me, I go, is this coming from my heart? Am I feeling joy? Does this make me feel good? Right, send. As I'm sending, do I hear any of that in me? Do I hear even the tiniest tiny bit of hint? If I do, I stop, because that still is very powerful and that still interferes and intercepts with the creation that I'm asking for. So it's this constant self-check. Then if I have put it out and I can tick the boxes of, yep, feels good, yep, no, can't see it feels exactly right with no doubt. Then we have this moment called in energy, critical oh my gosh, my words today, critical mass threshold, blech, spit it out. So 51% is critical mass threshold of your belief. If you believe in your intention, you will manifest it. So this is where the doubts come in. If it's not there, you're under 51%. So if you've ticked that box too, then you are sitting there awaiting for your creation. Then time comes in. And if time is getting longer than you thought, now we're into the attachments and the expectation parts. Do I have an expectation of how this is going to present, when it's going to present, who's going to present it, what it's going to look like, where it's going to come from? You've already clouded the creation again and demoted that potential creation coming back. With time on its own, that's enough half the time, because we've got an expectation going, oh, well, it hasn't come, gee. And every time you think, oh, it hasn't turned up, you're dropping that percentage away from critical mass each time, down, 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 which then minimizes the actuality of your creation coming in. So these are just some checkpoints I'll just throw now. I'm sure I'll come back in later, but I'd love Martine to jump in about her ideas and if they match up, or any extras that she might have, and then we'll work from there again. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my journey with like what I call the word manifestation has been a really interesting one over the last few decades, because, you know, I definitely come from that era of even before The Secret, like maybe just going back to Louise L. Hay, where, you know, and Doreen Virtue and those teachers in my life, where they were teaching me about what, you know, what creation looked like and how we could create. And, you know, then I've had to go on a massive journey of undoing some of the things there that perhaps didn't resonate. And potentially the word manifestation for me has almost been painted. And I call it more like it more for me feels like it's my divine like intention more. It's like there is a different energy about it when I use something along the lines of it's my divine intention. And the clinic for me has been one of my favorite places to see that in action, because, you know, when you have your own practice, you can't control a lot of the things that happen in it, because it's a free flowing and organic exchange that you've got with people. And so if someone like cancels, then, you know, you've got the opportunity to either freak out about that and wonder what's going to happen, you know, in a multitude of ways, like what are you going to do with your finances? How are you, what goes in that gap, or is it a time issue? And over the years, like it's been one of my biggest places of trust, because when something like that happens, time has taught me that there is something that I needing to do in that moment in time. There is something that I'm needing to experience in that moment in time. So I guess in the early days, it would be that there would be a lot of trust around the financial support, or what it looked like to gather momentum in clientele. And then as things progressed, I understood that I was maybe being put out of action because of particular energies that were going on, or things that I was potentially processing myself. And then other times it was literally about the trust of, um, being able to move, and being able to be flexible, and all of these things that kind of happened as a ripple effect of that. So for me, this journey of creation comes down a lot, again, to do with a trust that as long as I'm listening to my heart center, not my truth. Again, I have funny vibes about what truth is, because to me, if I believe that it's my truth, then I obviously can believe that in the duality of an untruth. And I'm just questioning consistently about duality, any form of duality in general these days. So for me, it comes back down to what's actually, like Marie was saying, does it feel okay in my heart? I think we have so many, like, Marie was saying about these two voices that are constantly inside our head. And one of my favorite ways to express, I feel like I challenge my clients to look at this aspect of it every day, I encourage you to have conversations consistently with yourself. I consider you the most healthiest person if you're having a good old fashioned conversation with yourself around what's coming up for you in a particular circumstance or a scenario, or something that you're questioning, or something that you may have irresolution around, anything along those lines. Have a conversation with yourself and break it down. And I think this is one of the most exciting things that happen in my clinic, is these conversations that I have with people about having conversations with themselves around things. So I sent someone some homework yesterday, inviting them to have conversations around what their preconceptions are around marriage, what their preconceptions are around a father. Like, what do they, sometimes until we really get to explore these aspects of the words, do we really understand what we've put behind them, and whether we've done that on a subconscious level or a conscious level, or whether it's just ingrained in us that is a belief structure. Like, I'm sure that each and every one of us listening to this right now still could spend a moment just to journal about a father figure, and still find some interesting things about that. It's about understanding that, like, what you're coming into everything with, and then challenging those conversations inside your head to then figure out what, like, is actually in resonance with your heart.
Well, absolutely. And as I said earlier, the creation that you want really must start from your heart. And it's difficult for some to get in touch with their heart. That used to be me. Absolutely. It used to be very hard. And I was a person that used to go, what do I want to create? Can I create? But what if I get it wrong? What if I order the wrong thing? Should I order it this way? What if it's not good enough? What if I ordered too much? All these things, we just go blah, blah, blah. And if that blah, blah, blah is happening in your head, please stop. Do not even go there in any creative manifesting moment, because you're in your head, you're in ego when you're in your head, and you're nowhere near the wondrous truth, the wondrous ability and possibility that your heart is waiting to deliver to you. The frequencies just can't match. So it's learning to pull back, it's learning to slow down. And the other couple of things I'd like to add in here too is that we get so excited when we're on this path sometimes. We've got great intentions and we want to grow and expand and we want everything yesterday at times. And that's okay. We all do it. But a lot of the inspiration, when we're starting to open up as well, we can get a lot of inspiration, a lot of ideas coming through, and we think, oh, yeah, that's what I've got to do. Yeah, that's what I've got to do. But not necessarily. Okay. So in these moments when you're getting inspiration, the key is, remember, you are on many timelines, and your soul is traversing many timelines in your dream time. So you're bringing forth a lot of information through your dreams or in your meditation moments. Some of those are coming through that may be actualized, and a lot of them are in there that are not in your highest good to manifest or to actualize. So again, it's the discernment process. It's the discernment process to be still, to wait, to go within again, to feel out what feels right, what's not. I remember years and years and years ago when I was starting, I had this constant vision of setting up a shop. It was going to be a shop down south in Wollongong. I could see it. I knew it was. It was in Gerringong, south of Wollongong. There it was. It was mine. I could see what was happening. I had visions left, right coming in, and I was saying, "Oh, this is yes. We're moving. We've got this happening. It's going to be it. This is where it is." But nothing ever happened to make me move towards that. The flow didn't come through. The synchronicity didn't occur from my higher self to show me, yes, this is the path. And then what actually happened over time, while I was still holding it and anchoring it and seeing it there, it was actually at the end of the day someone else that bought the shop and moved in and created a very similar concept. And in that moment and process, I realized it actually was never mine, but I had a contract with that soul to hold and assist the vibration for her. So often we're assisting other souls in their contracts, but not everything that we receive is ours to do. That's the discernment path again, as we learn, and we start to become more familiar with ourselves. And as Martine said, if we're not looking within and we're not asking and having a chat with ourselves about who we are and what we're feeling, how do we ever get to know ourselves? My saying years ago used to be, God, if people could see me, I'd be locked away, because I was constantly talking to myself, and I still do. And they're some of the best conversations that I ever have. And the most enjoyable, because no one interrupts me. But the other thing I would like to add, part two, which I said there's two things. And I think this is a really big one, because again, on the spiritual path, we have this illusion at times that we need to be positive. And to manifest, we need to be positive. And that's great, but that's just a word for a lot of people as well. And it's also a lie for a lot of people, because positivity, being positive, doesn't mean you've changed the belief structure in your being. Being positive just means really I'm hopeful. I'm trying. I'm doing the best that I can. And I'm really hoping that this is going to be right. I feel it's going to be okay. But do you have that real belief momentum underlying there that is actually the intention and the belief to make the creation? Because a lot of people in positivity are saying, yes, I know that's going to, I know I'm going to get better out of this. I know this is going to work. But Sybil back here in subconscious and unconscious is still going, I don't think so. I don't know about that. I don't think I can do that. But here we're saying yes. And so here's the pretense. So be very aware, again, truth. We've got to be honest to ourselves. Am I pretending? Am I being honest and truthful? Because honest and truthful is where you want to be to truly set an intention with the purpose to manifest, create, make abundant. Yeah. What do you feel?
Yeah. And keeping it simple by, even again, for me, it's about that challenging those words, like, what is abundance? What am I, what is it? And I'm trying to create, like, for me, this breaks it down. Like, I can visualize, like Marie said, I'm very creative and I'm very inspired and I'm very passionate. So I can see outcomes. And boy, I've been taken on some really interesting journeys. Like, I get given information about what I feel like I'm meant to be moving into in my business, for instance, and then I'll go down a particular avenue and it'll feel completely wrong, or I'll then get sidestepped into something else, and I just kind of follow this momentum until something does feel right. And that's just how I operated the whole way through, and that feels like integral to me as an individual, but it also feels like it aligns with all of my basic principles of life. So it really comes back down to two things: is not only visualizing it and seeing it like in that truth, but also then challenging some of the things that you're feeling like you're wanting to create and how you're wanting to create it. So, it's just this moment by moment perspective, I feel like wanting to create. And there's been certainly times in my life where that creation has felt really easy. or there's been times in my life where in the moment it's felt really complicated, but I look back and I think, wow, that was actually always meant to be. Like I look at my move to Coffs Harbour very much like that. Like everything flipped into place at the exact moment. And my meeting with Marie happened a week after I moved here. Like everything, but in hindsight, like you're looking back, it was like there was still like a process to get to there. There was still a journey that I went on to listen to whether Coffs Harbour was going to be the right thing for me. You know, like I was speaking to another client yesterday whose daughter lives down in Melbourne, and you know they've been trying to get property for her for quite some time, and you know she's just wanting to create a space for her to be, you know, doing her thing. And yet think about it from this level is you can actually do that. Like say you were just wanting to create a community of like-minded people around you. Those like-minded people aren't just segregated to different areas. Like you don't just go to Byron Bay to immerse yourself with the arts community. You know, we have an amazing arts community here in Coffs Harbour. You just go and expose yourself to our arts community and you're in it, you know. But the thought of wanting to move from one location to a next sometimes is enough to make people really overwhelmed and feel like they can't, you know, go anywhere or do anywhere with that. And that is what I call a block. It's like being open to where you're meant to be is by not trying to control the outcome of what you're trying to create and allowing some breathing room in that.
Yeah. Well, what you might call a block in that moment, I call conditions again, the attachments. In that, yeah, I'm willing to do that, but I'm willing to do that if I'm willing to do, maybe. That all looks great and that sounds great if it's how I'd like it to turn out to be. No, spirit doesn't work like that. Your higher self doesn't work like that, because the journey of your creation all the way in every moment of every day is just the ability to be now. And I think this word now needs to come in now because you're creating in every moment of now. This minute right now, Martine and I are creating the next 5 minutes, where we go with this talk. Your minute in your moment, wherever you be, you are creating what's coming. The past is done, the last minute's gone, but right now is where you are choosing of what is to come into your real reality, your perceptual reality. So now is the all important again. So if you're creating even, you know, watch all the ways that you're coming from creation. Where am I? That checklist, I think, is important. Am I present? Am I listening? Have I stopped? Have I felt? Does it bring me the joy, as we said? Does it make me feel good? Do I feel light in doing that? Does it feel right in this moment of now? Doesn't matter in 10 minutes, about now. And if it does, take the movement towards it, because what you're doing in that moment of now is you're saying, I'm open and willing. High self says, yeehaw. Then the divine feminine can impart the inspiration, the thought, the wisdom, the guidance, the vision, whatever it might be in that split moment of now. And in that moment when you've received it, you've got the choice to engage the divine masculine, to make a movement towards that. And it might be just simply, I'm going to go and meditate. It doesn't have to be anything like, wow. It's simply like listening of, you know, here's a classic for this. Years ago, standing at the sink in Coffs Harbour, I'd wanted to do more meditations. I'd said to my higher self, I'm willing, I will listen, I'm ready to trust and surrender more, guide me, guide me, guide me. So I'd set my intention and I meant it. So I'm standing at the sink, cleaning up, just 8:30 in the morning, is all hectic, all going on. And then as I'm washing up, I felt sit. I just heard and felt the word sit. So then ego, quick. You don't have to think, oh, is it an ego now? Ego just jumps in because the higher self talk, ego wants to cut it off. It will instantly come in to stop and block. And so in that moment, my next thought was, oh, well, I'll just finish what I'm doing and then I'll sit. And then I heard again, sit. And I'm putting my conditions like, yes, yes, I know, I hear that, I honor that. Yes, I'm coming. My higher self doesn't want to be waiting for 5 minutes. The higher self is now. So then as I'm waiting, I heard that one more time. And then I felt the message of, hang on a minute, you need to sit now, because exactly what I just said, The moment is now. And I've learned from the past that if I do my conditional thing and yeah, I'm going to do it with good intention, but I want to do my stuff first, a physical, then when I sit or whatever it is the moment has been, I sit and nothing happens and it's gone because it wasn't in the moment of now, where the higher self is saying, all is in flow right now. So I dropped everything, left it at the sink, which was a big thing for me because as a nurse, I'm very clean, very tidy. Everything's got to be nice and neat and tidy and mothering and blah, blah, get the family sorted. But I just left the crap at the sink and I just went and plonked myself down and sat. And then in no time, I was out. And I received, it was like split second, I don't know how many seconds or minutes I might have been there. And then boom, came out refreshed, got this next level of guidance, sat there and thought, wow, and stood up and went back to the sink. But if I hadn't done it, I would have missed that opportunity. And I don't know when that would have come around again. And this is the moment of trusting now and just being present.
Yep. Yep. And I think if everybody can just start to experiment with that between now and when we ever connect again, you'll be surprised. Like the amount that I've already done regarding that this week. If we're just looking at Monday morning alone, there was a sick chicken in my house and she had already stayed overnight in my bathroom, and I was discerning whether or not she was going to die of her own natural causes or whether or not I needed to act or do something. And it was just, there was no controlling about this discernment, no panic about it. I was just observing the situation. And something in my gut just kept repeating, no, she needs to go to the vet. No, she needs to go to the vet. And so I rang up and yes, the actual chicken vet was there that day. Off we trotted to the vet. She had the availability for us. And, I said to her at the end, I said, so what in truth, because, it's a chicken, she's not going to go and get an MRI and everything. And the chicken was 7 granted. And she's like, well, like it could be a brain tumor. And I said, what else could it be? And she was like, a brain tumor. And I said, is there anything else it could have been? And she's like, a brain tumor. And I was like, wow, so, and I said, and realistically, like, would she have been able to die, like, organically? And she was like, you would have been on palliative care. It would have been, like, it might not have happened overnight. What you're doing right now is legitimately the most humane thing that you could do.
Wow.
And it was really beautiful. It was a beautiful passing. I could feel her energy. I could feel her gratitude. She was purring in our arms before it happened. And she sat in her own little altar all day before we had the memorial service in the afternoon. And, very beautiful. And likewise with, how my daughter's been, I just knew she wasn't going to school that day for whatever reason, and I'm glad she didn't. I was just listening to that. She wasn't not going to school for any reason other than I could just see she was a little bit tired. Like if that had been a different scenario and I'd just pushed through and I'd just gone, you know what? I know that I can see you're tired, but I feel like, you need to push through and you need to get there.
Yeah.
She wouldn't have been there for that whole experience. That whole experience would not have looked so beautiful with us sharing all of this together. Like it wouldn't have been the relaxed thing that it was. And likewise, yesterday we had the day off together as well. And because I got this message in the morning that her ballet had been cancelled, and I had clients going all the way through, and I was like, oh, I can't be bothered to try and move anything. And I literally just said to her, do you feel like going to school? And she's like, no, not really. And I said, well, how about we hang out in the morning? I'll push all my clients back until lunch and then I'll drop you at Granny's. And she's like, sweet. So we had this beautiful, gorgeous morning hiking around the beaches. And, it's just this listening and organic flow. And there was, even when we were coming back, I said, I think we've got time for sushi. And she goes, oh, really? So we went, we dropped the puppies home and then went and head to sushi. And there was this moment when I was at the lights. I was like, oh, it's looking tight now because we got stuck at a few lights. But when I and then I just spoke to myself, talked to myself, and I said, it'll all be perfect. It will be. It'll all be perfect. Then we got into sushi and Granny texts and like, oh, instead of you dropping her off, how about I just come pick her up? I was like, well, that's going to save me 20 minutes. So, yeah. And again, how it all works out. And it's just these little practices that then create your faith and trust in these bigger scenarios, that you don't know if it's going to be a big move, or that your child, you're looking at the situation that your child's experiencing at school and thinking, this isn't feeling right, but I don't quite know what's not feeling right. Just about being open to what that looks like. And one of my other favorite ways of doing that is to just continuously ask me to kind of get out the way, and my higher self to come down and take charge, and then continue to hand over whatever it is that I'm noticing playing around in my mind. So whether it's, that, I don't know what to do over a certain situation, I just keep handing it over. I keep handing it over, because there's no matter, like, you could, I'm sure you've all done it, where you've all tried to do your little tarot reading for yourself, or used your little pendulums to try in that moment. Is it yes? Is it yes? Should I go?
Yep.
And you know that you'll always get the answer that you're really wanting, or you'll just pack the deck up and try again for option B and hope for the right cards on that, because you're trying to force the
outcome.
Yeah,
absolutely. And the other thing too is to know that a lot of the times when you're in your fear, you're actually trying to ask for, pray for, whatever word you want to give it, intend, manifest. You're usually asking for everything you're not believing in. Because when you're in fear and you're coming from that lower frequency, you are in a space where you're not believing. Fear doesn't have faith. Fear doesn't have trust. It doesn't know. So usually, when you're asking for money, or when you're asking for the help, when you're asking for the partner, or when you're asking for whatever, just listen to those words and feel those words out, because usually they're from already the knowing space of lack. And so it's the lack you're creating from that the universe must respond to vibrationally. And so it sends you more of what you don't want. That's all that's happening. So then we're getting frustrated. Then we're saying, oh, why isn't it happening? And why isn't this working? And I'm doing what they're telling me to. No, you're in a space where you're coming from the lack to ask for more lack. So the lack and the truth and the pretending, or all those lower belief systems, thoughts, must be addressed. They must be acknowledged, to be tweaked, to be resolved, to be let go, to be however you want to just raise them a little bit. Simple recognition raises them. And then you're in a better place to go again. So, like, I know so many people who've gone, oh, I just give up. I can't do this. I'll never do it. Well, how can you in that space? Full stop. You're already telling yourself and set the outcome. So, as one of those old people, it takes work and it takes effort and it takes that challenge to the self to go, okay, I give up. Yay, now you're ready. And we have to get there at some point. But I know sometimes when I've tried to put something out and I know that I'm not where I want to be, that honesty point for me is saying to myself, okay, I heard what I said and I know what's going to happen with that, and that's not my desired outcome. So I need to adjust the words. I need to adjust my thoughts as best as I can to actually believe in what I'm saying. And once I have a belief to some degree of what I'm saying, put that out, because you'll get that little bit coming back. And then you can build on that and you can tweak and refine and tweak. And as Martine said, the more that you practice and the more that you start understanding how if I just change my wording a little bit, I've got a little bit of a different outcome. That's you showing you what it's all about. You are the change agent. How you work and think and speak and do is everything about what you will ultimately call back unto you from the universe. As I said, the universe doesn't judge you. It doesn't say you're good, you're bad, you're worthy, you're not. It doesn't even know you're a person. You are not a person except in this world. It just says you're light. It just feels and reads the vibration that you're sending out. So that's why pretense doesn't work, because you're only pretending to yourself. Your true vibration goes out to the universe. The universe reads your true vibration, where you have your major focus of attention and belief to. not your, oh, that'd be nice, but it's not going to happen. Well, the not going to happen always goes out, and so it comes back at that vibrational return.
And even like if you also sit there in, well, if it will happen when it's meant to, for me, that's another form of that, because it's
Yeah.
kind of like you're putting it out there like, well, it'll happen. Like, obviously, I have such great trust in the universe. It'll happen when it's meant to, I'm sure of it. But it's just you going, I don't trust that it's really going to happen. And therefore, if I just pretend, it'll be okay.
It gives me an out.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, it wasn't meant to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also laugh because I feel like there's recognition for me in the 11th hour as well. Like, I feel like I was an 11th hour for a really long time, where it would all come together in the 11th hour, until I remember turning around and going, yeah, no, I'm not doing this 11th hour anymore. And I remember practicing it again. If I use the example of my finances, I remember practicing it and going, okay, well, I can see some bills here. So let's make that happen. And then if I'm doing it from a place of like, let's make it happen, like I'm freaking out about it, then it would never work out. If I did it from a place of, let's make that happen, because that creates a greater outcome for all involved, then it would always hit the bank, be okay. Some months I remember, because as a business, you have monthly invoices that are all due. And some months back in the early days, there would be some months where it would be really huge, and other months where I wouldn't have as many expenses. And I would look at them. I remember looking at them as they were going, and going, interesting. I feel like we're hitting to like the 20th of the month, which means we've literally got 11 days. And and I'd be like, okay, cool, but we'll just see how that unfolds, shall we? And I would look at, like, it would come to the first of the month, and I would have paid them all. I would have paid my mortgage, so everything would have been done, and I would have just gone, nailed it. And then it was just building on that trust. It's just these little step by step moments where you're continuing to build on that, just like how Marie was talking about, her meditation. And I've only ever known I've got a visual of Marie in her house when she was in Coffs Harbour, in the exact chair that she's talking about, because there would be, we would call each other pretty much almost daily. I'd be like, how are you? And she'd be like, oh yeah, well, I just came out from being knocked out again. Like, she would just go to this chair and get knocked out. And I remember actively going to this chair, like, because I felt like it was a magical chair. Like, and I would go there with my breastfeeding child and just sit on it, because I knew that I was getting some yummy vibes from that chair. But that's how I've only known her. Whereas my journey with being in the now has been something that I've progressively continued to practice. If I don't listen to what I'm being told to do in that moment, sit down, have a drink, make a cup of tea, go to the beach, whatever that looks like, then there's usually, for lack of a better choice of words, a consequence. And that consequence for me personally looks like anxiety, like this unrest within myself. I just can't be bothered feeling anymore. Like, I have no time for it. Like, it doesn't bring me joy. I don't enjoy being in that state of being. And I can always tell, because like one of my favorite times to meditate is just before I go and pick up my child. And so I'll usually allow like a little bit of time in between there, or I might finish with a client just a little bit earlier to go into that time. And it's such a beautiful time for me, because it just is this transition from from who I am have been in clinic all day to, like, venturing into the afternoon and the evening with my child. And, on the times where I've noticed that I haven't listened to that in that moment, how I think we've all, like, I think we've all had those disgusting afternoons, the ones that just feel like you're just so exhausted and you're just dragging your feet through them. And that literally what happens to me if I don't listen to me throughout the day.
Yeah. And I would, in that same vein, I would love to add in, because I think the one thing a lot of people, apart from wanting all the things you want to manifest in whatever terms they come in labels, but I think the most common thing that as women or mothers, and probably men too, we often talk about just wanting to manifest more time. You know, oh, if I had more time in the day. Oh, if I just had a bit of time here. Oh, if I could just sit down. Oh, no. Well, you can. Okay, you absolutely can. And the wonders, and I've had lots of people say to me, oh, yeah, right. Oh. But it's true because, again, I trialed and researched and did it myself, and I do it all the time, just like Martine's saying, is that the paradox that spirit is that the more that you surrender, the more that you give yourself, if you keep telling yourself a belief that I don't have enough time, well, how can you see more time? Because you're telling yourself your outcome. That's what you expect. You believe, I don't have enough time. So how could you change that? So to change that, you say, I don't know how I'm going to have enough time, but I would like more time. So you've set a very clear intention. And this is what I did one day. I remember it was Laura's birthday, and we just moved to the Gold Coast, and she was having this big party for, I don't know, 13 or 14, whatever it was. And I had a whole stack of stuff to do that day. And I thought, okay, I am choosing not to be overwhelmed by it. First point. So I made a choice. And then I said, okay, higher self, this is what I need to do in physical today. Bing, bong, bing, bong, bing, bong, bing, XYZ, whatever it was. I said, so I am willing that it's all got to be done, but however and the best way to do that, you choose, you say, you knock me on the head, you direct me, you tell me, you guide me, and I'll just fall into place. And so I literally did that, was just going, what do I feel like doing now? And I'd get the flash, do the cake. But then I would have thought, oh, I was going to do this. But it was like, we'll do the cake. Okay, let's do the cake. And I literally went through the day just going, okay, with nothing in, just going, and had the music on, and I was happy, and it was just a flowy kind of day. But I had achieved everything by lunchtime. Now, that really was impossible in real terms, but it was all done. And why? Because when we flow, when we actually go with our natural flow and we're not resisting the process and we're not putting those blocks and conditions up and we're pushing hard against our flow and we literally dive in and let it take us, time slows down. It stills. So we create time. Now, that wasn't lucky. That wasn't just a fluke. I chose to experience that. You can too. But you have to know to take a breath and to be willing not to be running the show, because that's what ego and control wants to do. And watch yourself if you keep cutting back in, telling yourself, I'm going to run out of time, I'm not going to get it all done. Look at these words we're telling ourselves. All these beliefs you're setting up to create the next moment of your day is all the thoughts and words you're saying to yourself. So until you recognize that, you can't change. That's your power moment. The moment you realize that, going, you've just pulled your power back to be able to make a different choice with your true will in alignment with thy will, flow. That's how it works.
That doesn't necessarily change your list, but it changes the need for what's on that list. You know,
changes your anxiety.
what like everything on that list may or may not happen, but you'll get the guidance as to what ends up being a priority in that moment.
Yeah.
And there'll be different triggers. It's about recognizing what triggers are triggers. Like I remember when Isla was a baby, the lawns were a big trigger for me. And it was the place I learned just what Marie was talking about, where I learned, okay, well, the lawns are on my agenda this week. I just want to have that space created. And I meant it. I was like, I really don't want the garden is a sacred place for us to go and hang. I don't want the lawns are getting like too cray. So I want the space to be able to do that. And it would happen. It would be that day where I could take that baby monitor down and she would sleep that extra amount of time. And it would always work. And it was just, that had to happen. I think it still had to happen at least 10 times before I went, oh, okay, I've got this now. You know, there's going to be some, and I saw it come in the other day. Like, so there's that twice a year thing I usually call Marie for, which is opening the vents. I had the ladder up. I live in like a cathedral ceiling, so I have to open some vents twice a year and close. Like, we'll open them once a year and close them the other part of the year. And so up the ladder I went, but I went with another friend this time. I put her on FaceTime. And then when I came down, I looked at her and she looked at me and she goes, "Don't do it." And I said, "What?" She goes, "I can see you. I can see you looking at those cobwebs over there, but they're too far away." And I said, "I know, but they're calling me." And she goes, "But why are they calling you?" And so at that point I grabbed the phone, I went downstairs, I sat in my blue chair and I went, why are they calling me? And I realized in that very moment it was my mum. There was like a lamp next to me, and I just remember, I'll use the jug as an example. I just remember going, because my mum was like this. This was how I grew up. Like, she would go around and look at the dust everywhere.
Cobwebs.
Yeah. And the cobwebs. And that wouldn't be up to scratch. And then she's like, well, and then my friend beautifully just said to me, "All right, well, can the Martine way just not be enough?" And I went, "Yes, it can." And so I have a beautiful little collection of cobwebs up in the cathedral ceiling, which are most likely going to stay there for quite some time to come.
Yeah. Well, they're good minded creations because, look at the webs are the weaves, the webs we weave, and grandmother spider, and we watch all these incredible creations, and we have so many webs within us and around us we're creating. I think they're a great reminder. But funny you mentioned that. It might be a good way to close too. Was with my husband the other day, we were driving home after a beach walk in the morning. And bless him, and he had to go and get some bloods done. He does his thing, I do mine. And he said, "Pity I didn't bring my form. I could have gone and got those bloods down now." And I said, "Oh well." And he said, "Because I'll go home and I'll go back to be pensioner hour." And I said, "Oh, will it?" And he said, "Oh yeah, it's always busy. I'll get there, it's always busy. It's full of pensioners, and you just have to wait. And so I've missed that hour. I'll just have to sit back and I'll go later." And I said, "Oh, I'd probably rock up now and there'd be none." And he said, "Oh, no," he said, "there's always pensioners." And I said, "Yeah, but that's your world, and I have a different world." And he looked at me and said, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "Because I create how I want to create, and you're creating from your world." And I said, "You're always saying you're creating a world of pensioners. So you believe all these pensions are going to be, they're going to hold you up, they're going to sit there, you're going to have time delayed, you're not going to get through when you want to, it's going to be a pain in the backside to be there. So I need to go later." Said, "Look what you've just built. Look what you've just created." And he said, "Oh, so you say you'd get there and there'd be nothing?" And I said, "Probably. More than likely," because I said, "I know what I create." And I said, "It's the same when we drive on the road. You create traffic jams and I create smooth." And he said, "Oh, that's just luck." I said, "There's no luck to it." I said, "There isn't any luck ever." I said, "We create our own reality." And I said, "Can you understand in a conscious term that what you believe is what you see? So you believe you'll see pensioners. Congratulations, you get the pensioners." I said, "I don't want to see the pensioners. I'm happy to meet them. I'm happy to say hi if I need to. If they're in my eyes good, I'll see them." I said, "But I don't need to create a room full of them so I get frustrated." I said, "I just don't get it." And he went, "Oh, what a lot of crap." And I said, "Well, it's what you believe. What can I say?"
Yeah.
He's like, "Ah." But that's it. That's it in a simple nutshell. It is all about what you believe, and what you say is what you get.
My last thing that I'd like to add is this state that you can put yourself in. If you can put yourself in a highest frequency, that's great. But sometimes we need practice to get there. And that simple method of gratitude for me works every time. Yep. So I find even if I'm just sitting down for 5 seconds before I actually start my day and just sitting with gratitude and what I am actually grateful, I have no attachment to what that could happen. Like, what that could be. It could be that I have the birth of my child flash in. It could be that I've got gratitude for a certain friend that flashes in, or a place that I went to. I just have gratitude, and I'll try and just observe 3. And if I get more, great. And then when I get to a place where I'm feeling that real clear line of gratitude, that's when I actually dream the most. That's when I sit there and I'm like, well, what is it that I am hoping to create here? What is it that I am desiring? And it comes a lot clearer, and it comes with a lot more like just clarity in general around what it is that you are actually designing. So I feel like that's my last tidbit for today.
Perfect. Good way to finish. Gratitude speeds up everything.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So as I said, we're just literally touching on things. This is such another huge topic. You know, we could go and go and go, but there's no point to that. Hopefully there's some tips for you to have a little conscious think about going, oh, yeah, I can see I do that. I don't do that. Oh, okay. Again, no wrong or right. It's just the ability to recognize, oh, I could make a shift on that. I could improve that a little bit. I could make a change there for you. It's not for us. It's not for anybody else. It's simply for you to trial for yourself and to see where that takes you to find and receive all that you're worthy of receiving and all that the universe has ready right now to give you, but can't come through because you've got something like heavy cobwebs in the way that you've created that are blocking that flow coming in. It's not that you're ever doing anything wrong. It's all there waiting for you, and you're the change agent to get to it. Okay.
All right. Well, until next week, thank you so much for joining us today. And if you've
Absolutely.
loved this episode, please share it with whoever you feel like may resonate with it. It's not that we're wanting to get ourselves out there on a huge scale. It's just that we're wanting to share. And we know that this provides a lot of support for so many people. So
yeah,
if it feels in resonance with you to share it, remember that if they listen to it or watch it, that's up to them. Yeah. And anyone can jump in at any point because we're not carrying on episodes to a different episode. They're all different. You'll find that some resonate with you and others don't. And that's okay too.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, well, have a wonderful day, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, Martine.